Welcome to Module 5, Functions and Modular Thinking in Python Foundations course. So until now, you have learned how to write basic programs using conditions and loops. But as your programs grow larger, it's essential to organize your code into logical, reusable blocks. So that's where functions come in. In this module, you'll learn how to write your functions, pass and return data from functions, use lambda functions for quick logic, understand variable scope, what is local versus global, and at last we'll build a calculator app as your assignment project. So this will set the foundation for writing clean, modular and scalable code, just like real world developers. So we'll start with defining and calling functions. So what is defining and calling functions? What is the concept of functions in Python? So in programming, a function is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. You can think of it like a machine. You give it some input and it does its job, and it gives back an output. The functions help us avoid repetitions, organize our code, improve the readability, make programs easier to test and debug. So in Python, we define functions using the def keyword. Now let's give a sample function definition. Def greet. Right now let's print hello, welcome to learn with Sarvesh. Right, so I'm giving a greeting message. Now I'm calling greet. This is the function call. So what are the important key concepts here? Def. What does this def mean? Def is the keyword to define a function. Greet is the function name. Open close parenthesis. Right, so this parenthesis to hold input parameters. I have not passed any parameters here. Right, so greet open close bracket is nothing but the function call to execute it. Right, so the moment I made a function call, it has executed this function and it has printed an output here. Hello, welcome to learn with Sarvesh. Why use functions? Right, so why use functions? Right, so here is a repetitive way. Right, so hello, what? Sanjay, print, hello, Priya, print, hello, Sneha. Right, so we'll have to repeat it. Right, so whenever there is a new user that's coming in, we're going to repeat it. Now how can we overcome this? Now with function, I'm going to define a function, mention it, name it as say hello and name here. And I'm going to print with an f string literal hello, comma, name and an exclamation. Right, so now I'm going to say hello, right, so Sarvesh, right, so you can see that, and I can use the same function, right, say hello, what Bob is coming in, right, so hello Bob, right, I don't have to use this print statement, rather I could automate it, right, so this way we can write once and use many times. That's the simple way of telling why a function is needed. Right, so imagine in an ATM, you press a button, that's a function call. It asks, for your PIN, right? You're going to input the PIN, and it gives you a cash. That's the output. So every time someone, presses this withdraw button, the same function is triggered multiple times, but with different inputs. It checks for the different PIN numbers, and it's giving you the output. Right, so that's the simple real world analogy where you can compare and understand how it works. Right, now how to pass an argument within a function. The same function def, let's give the greet user and let's pass the name and let's print with an f string in it hello, and let's pass this name have a great day. It's like a similar example that what we have done above. Right, so now I can use this function greet user rf. Right, so hello rf, have a great day. Right, so we are passing in parameter this name. right? So this is what passing in parameter or passing an argument within a function. Now how will I have a return value? So df add a comma b. Now let's return a plus b. Right? Now let's add 10 comma 20. Right? So the moment I have passed a as 10, b as 20, it's returning a plus b. That's 30. Right? So the return, right? So this return is something that sends back to the caller. Right? So whoever is calling it, this return function is going to return a value back to the caller. So what are some default parameters? Let's take this same df example. Df greet name is equal to, let's give it as guest. Give it a colon enter. Right? So you can see by default there is an indentation block. So print hello, let's add an f string to it. Hello, comma, name. So what does it mean? Let's give greet, open close bracket. If at all I'm not passing any name within this function, it's going to respond back it as hello guest. If I say greet Sarvesh, it's going to greet hello instead of guest. It's going to respond back it as with the actual name Sarvesh. So if there is no parameter that's passed within this function, by default it takes the default parameters that whatever that we have defined, right? So use default values when no argument is passed. Now let's discuss about this lambda function. So what is this lambda function? df square of x, right? So return x star x, right? This is the actual regular function, right? So I will say square, I'm going to 25. Now let's use this lambda function. Lambda x, x star x, x star x. I'll call this as, let's define it as square lambda. Right? So let's pass this as square lambda of 5. You can see? And 25. So what is this lambda function? I call this lambda function as an anonymous function. So how did we define? I've given this keyword, this reserved keyword lambda. So in Python, a lambda function is a small anonymous function defined without a name. So here, the classical function have a name here. Here there is no name. There is no name definition, right? So where do I have to use it? So it's great when you need a quick, short function. So typically used for one-liners or when passing function as an argument. Right? So think of it as a function shortcut. Right? So I can have one lambda argument like this. Right? So lambda argument. Right? So and then have this expression. Lambda arguments and an expression. So it returns the result of the expression automatically. So that's what this lambda expression is all about. Right? Now let's have a lambda inside a map function. Let's have this numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4. Right? Now let's use map function lambda of x, x star x, comma numbers. So list of map lambda x star x. So I'll call this as squares. Right, so and then let's print the squares here. Right, so it's going to take in an iteration. What does this map function do? It's going to take one by one in a loop. Right, so one element at a time. So 1, the x will be 1 star 1. So 1. So 2 star 2, 4, 3 star 3, 3 star 9 and 4 star 16. So the map, it's going to take one element at a time from this list, right? So, and I'm giving list of map of lambda, so the output will be in a list format, right? So list data structure, right? So, and at last, let's take one more example here. What does, let's use an, lambda that's returning in Boolean. Lambda of x mod 2 is equal to 0. So I'll say is even. I'm going to print is even 6. Right? So is even 6. So is even is this function. Right? So the anonymous function. And I'm going to pass that 6 here. So 6 mod 2 is equal to 0. Therefore it's returning in Boolean true. Right? So the Boolean is written. Right? So when to use one line lambda. Right? So when to use lambda function. So whenever I need an one line functions, I'll use an lambda. Right? So when passing a function as an argument, I'll use an lambda. So in function programming and functional programming tools like map, filter and reduce, I'll use this lambda functions. And when not to use an lambda, if the logic is more than one line, I'll use an DEF way of defining a function. So if the function is reused often, I give it a proper name, right? So I'll give it as a proper name is even and then use it. Right? So now let's understand the variable scope, local versus global. Say for example, I'm defining x is equal to 10. So this is a way of global declaration. Now I'm giving def show, right? So x is equal to 5 and print. Right, so print, so let's give it as inside so that you understand, inside, comma x, right? Now, let's print x, right? It's printing 10. Now, let's use show. So inside is 5, now here, I'll put it as outside is 10. That means what should we understand? So x is inside this function. Therefore, this is a local declaration. This is global declaration. I have not declared anywhere within a function. Rather, I have just declared it outside. So this is a global declaration and this is a local declaration. Right? So this is the variable scope that we need to understand. Now let's have a mini project combining of all the different logics and functions that we have learned. Now, by end of this, this small project, you'll be able to understand how to write a function to add, subtract, multiply, divide. So each operation in separate functions. So I'm going to take an input from user and I'm going to use while true to keep running until the user exits. Now what have I done here? So I'm defining multiple functions here. So def add. So I'm adding a and b, written a plus b. Subtract a minus b, multiply a star b, divide a by b, right? So if it is 0, I'm going to throw an error. I'm going to give an output. You cannot divide by 0. So while true, right? So what is this while true? It means it's going to create an infinite loop that will only stop when the user chooses to exit. I'm going to print, add, subtract, multiply, divide and exit. Right, so this takes user input as a string, the choice. If at all the user is giving a choice 5, right, so that is an exit option. Right, so if choice is 5, then we are going to break it. Right, so it's going to take two numbers as input. Right, so it's going to take two numbers. So first, let's give an addition. First number 10, 20. Right, so and the result is 30. Now I'm going to give the second choice subtract 20. 10. So the result is 10. Third option 10 and 20. Right, it's 200. And let's give this fourth option 10 and 5. The result is 2. And let's also exit it. So I've given all these 5 options here. Right, so all the inputs are converted to float to support the decimals and the whole numbers. So if choice is 1, use this function add. If choice is 2, use this function subtract. If 3 multiply 4 is divide, and if something else is given, it's going to throw in as an invalid choice. Right? So what you'll learn, once you have done this project, you will see how to define functions as in modular thinking. Right? So how in conditions, right? The conditional statements, if, else, right? So the decision making, and also we can see the looping, the while concept that we have done here. The type conversion, we have converted it to float. Right, so and we have done the error handling as well. Right, so you cannot divide by 0 and invalid choice. Right, so and we have given a clean code structure functions can improve the readability. Right, so you can enhance this. You can add an input validation for numbers and choices. You can allow integers or floats to be chosen. You can display results that's rounded to 2 decimal places. You can also wrap and function calls using this try except block to catch the input errors. Right, so this is the end of this, the first part of this conditionals and loop. Right, so now going forward, we'll also learn about the other concepts. Right, so the map, reduce, and filter. So